I was elbow-deep in third-quarter reports, lost in spreadsheets and deadlines, when my laptop chimed. A video call. Wexler Home blinked across the screen like a warning light. My stomach turned. I hesitated. Then clicked accept. My mother's face filled the screen, practically glowing with excitement. She was sitting in their overly beige living room, a painting of daisies crooked behind her. "Leona, sweetheart, we have the most wonderful news," she sang. That voice. That particular tone. I hadn't heard it in months, but I remembered exactly what it meant. Loss. "What's going on?" I asked, setting my pen down, already bracing. Dad appeared next to her, grinning like a man who'd just hit a jackpot. "It's about Bryn's wedding," he said. "Everything's worked out." My eyes narrowed. "Oh." Mom clasped her hands together. "We sold your lake house." My heart skipped. "You what?" "Your lake house," she repeated slowly, like I hadn't heard her. "We got an amazing offer, above asking." It was meant to be. I couldn't speak. My lake house. My only escape. The place I bought when I was 28, scraping together savings, signing every document myself with shaking hands. No cosigner. No emotional support. Just me, a lawyer, and a banker who couldn't even pronounce my name correctly. "We wired the deposit for the venue this morning," Mom added cheerfully. "Isn't it incredible? It's at the Grand Vista." Bryn cried when she saw the ballroom. I don't understand," I managed. Dad shrugged. "It's been empty for years. You're always in Boston." "I've been working," I said, more to myself than to them. "Exactly," Mom chirped. "So why let it rot? Bryn deserves her dream day, and this way, you're giving it to her. It's your gift." "Gift?" My vision swam. "It was just sitting there," Dad said. "Doing nothing." "No," I whispered, voice dry. "It was doing something for me." But they didn't hear me. They were already off, describing the dress fittings, the imported linens, the fireworks show planned for the reception. They were celebrating the erasure of my autonomy. "We just wanted to share the good news." Mom beamed. "Love you, sweetheart." I stared blankly. "Love you," I said. Then I clicked end call. The room felt too quiet. Too hollow. I closed my laptop, stood up, and stared at the gray Boston skyline. A line from a childhood poem echoed through my mind. "They never noticed the fire until the house was ash." I picked up my phone and made a single call. There was only one person who needed to hear what they'd just done. I bought the lake house when I was 28. No party. No applause. Just a dull overcast sky, the smell of pine, and a key that weighed heavier than it should have in my palm. It sat at the edge of Lake Champlain, serene, quiet, stubborn like me. The porch creaked like it had something to say, and the dock jutted into the water like it was challenging the world to try and take it. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't need to be. It was mine. I told no one at first. For 6 months, I kept it sacred. On weekends, I'd drive out alone with secondhand books and a bag of groceries. I painted the kitchen cabinets navy. I hung wind chimes I found at a roadside fair. I had an armchair so worn it sagged like a tired friend. And for the first time in years, I breathed like I wasn't being watched. When I finally told my mother, she barely looked up from her crossword. "Must be nice," she muttered. That was the beginning. Within a month, my sister's tuition bill landed in my inbox. Then a credit card statement. Then the car lease. They never asked directly. That would have made it too real. Instead, the needs arrived silently. I was the unspoken solution, the daughter who had things together, the safe fallback. It was always just a little help, until it wasn't. Mortgage payments. Water heater. Dad's dental surgery. Rin's study abroad trip. It all flowed through me like water through a cracked pipe. I stopped keeping track. I told myself I didn't mind. That I was lucky to be in a position to give. That family means sacrifice. That their silence was gratitude in disguise. But the lake house stayed untouched. Not once did they visit. Not once did they ask about it. I think they liked to forget I had something that wasn't theirs. Except they never really forgot. They knew where the deed was. Where I kept the safe. Where I filed the papers. They always knew. So 18 months after buying it, I quietly transferred the deed to a holding company I created during grad school, Wexmont Holdings. Not because I thought they'd steal. But because deep down, I knew they might. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of panic, out of clarity. You know that strange kind of silence when you realize something's broken and there's no way to tape it back together? That was me. Sitting on the edge of my bed, replaying every small moment that had led to this. They'd smiled when they told me. Smiled. Like it was a wedding gift and not theft. At 2:12 a.m., I powered up my old laptop. The one I hadn't touched in over a year. The fan groaned like it, too, was waking up to trouble. I plugged in the backup drive, encrypted and nameless. My fingers hovered for a second, then moved fast. The folder was there. Wexmont Holdings. The holding company I built in law school for a business idea that never materialized. I'd repurposed it the year I bought the lake house, transferring the deed under its name and registering it as a separate legal entity. Corporate veil. Tax strategy. And, as it turns out, shield against betrayal. No one knew. Not Natalie, not even my ex. Why? Because I didn't do it expecting my family would betray me. I did it because I feared they might. I clicked open the PDF, original deed, transfer confirmation, EIN number, corporate registry. I'd even updated the insurance policy to match Wexmont's name. The details were sharp, airtight, and dated well before the supposed sale. They didn't just make a mistake. They committed fraud. I stared at the screen. The betrayal felt sharper now, more clinical. It wasn't just personal. It was criminal. So I called Natalie. She picked up on the second ring, voice groggy but alert. Leona? I need a favor, I said, steady. Legal? Big. I heard rustling as she sat up. I'm listening. My parents just sold a house they don't own. A pause. Come again? I opened the file. The documents glowed on the screen like evidence waiting to be used. They sold property owned by Wexmont Holdings, I said quietly. And they forged my name to do it. By noon the next day, Natalie had read every file. Twice. You don't just have a case, she said, eyes sharp across the Zoom screen. You have a nuclear warhead. We didn't waste time. We modified a foreclosure notice template from her firm's archive, swapped out names, property ID, legal clauses, and sent it to Wexmont's counsel for review. The language was clean, clinical, deadly. Every sentence bled with precision. 48 hours later, it was notarized, sealed, and sent via certified mail to my parents' address. No threats. No confrontation. Just facts. The sale was unauthorized. The buyer defrauded. The proceeds frozen pending legal investigation. Wexmont Holdings was asserting full ownership rights. I didn't scream. Didn't demand explanations. Didn't beg. Instead, I reopened the old family group chat, muted for over a year, and sent a single message. Check your mail. Then I muted it again, shut my laptop, and made tea. There was something terrifyingly satisfying about stillness. Not the absence of action, but the choice to withhold. My parents had always expected obedience masked as kindness. They thought silence meant submission. Now they would learn, some silences bite back. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen notifications. Missed calls. Voicemails. Emails. Mom, honey, the mailman dropped something confusing, can you explain? Dad, Leona, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. Bryn, this is about your stupid house, isn't it? I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded every message to Natalie. 2 minutes later, she replied, they're rattled. Good. The best part? None of the vendors had been informed yet. But that was changing fast. By afternoon, my inbox lit up with messages from Destiny, the wedding planner. Hi Leona, I'm following up on several bounced payments. The florist is asking for a new deposit. Venue confirmation is overdue. I didn't reply. The next day, 5 more emails landed. Desperation clung to every word. The band needs cash up front. The Grand Vista says they'll release the date in 48 hours. Please advise ASAP. I screenshot every message and sent them to Natalie. She responded with a single thumbs up emoji. Meanwhile, Bryn posted bridal selfies like nothing was wrong. Her followers saw pastel dreams. She didn't realize the roof was already on fire. By the third day, the wedding machine was grinding to a halt. Vendors started backing out, quietly at first. A string quartet declined due to scheduling conflicts. The cake designer pulled out citing payment concerns. The florist stopped responding altogether. But the planner, Destiny, was unraveling in real time. Her latest email read, Hi Leona. I've now received 7 vendor warnings. Some are threatening legal action. I've tried contacting your parents. Nothing. Please, what's going on? My name is on several of these contracts. My reputation's at risk. I read the message twice. Then closed it. They'd built a fantasy on stolen money and assumptions. Now it was bleeding out from the seams, and I had no intention of handing them a bandage. Meanwhile, my family group chat became a storm. Mom, sweetheart, we didn't realize this would upset you so much. Dad, we're just trying to keep things afloat. You're doing so well, we thought. Bryn, I can't believe you're ruining my wedding over a house you didn't even use. I muted the thread. Again. They weren't confused. They were cornered. The buyer's real estate agent sent a formal request for clarification. The escrow officer emailed both Natalie and me, confirming all disbursements had been frozen pending legal review. And yet, the show went on. Bryn continued her wedding countdown online. Photos of champagne flutes, lace robes, her dream dress in soft-lit mirrors. Captions like, can't wait to marry my soulmate ring #blessed. Her followers were obsessed. Fairy tale. Living the dream. So elegant. None of them knew the band had pulled out. That the venue was ready to cancel. That the whole wedding was stitched together with lies and bounced checks. Destiny's next subject line said it all. Help. I'm losing control of this wedding. Still, I said nothing. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Collapse is often quiet, until it's not. By the end of the week, Natalie filed an injunction with the court. A temporary restraining order was granted within hours. The sale was frozen. The fraud investigation became official. My parents hadn't just taken my house. They'd stepped into a legal storm wearing flip-flops. And I was done holding the umbrella. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. I wore black. Not for drama, just for armor. Inside, the courtroom was colder than I expected. Natalie sat beside me, poised and razor-sharp, fingers laced over her notes. Across the aisle, my parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in a week. Mom clutched a tissue she hadn't used. Dad stared at the floor like the answers might be hiding in the tile grout. Bryn wasn't there. Not yet. The prosecutor laid out everything with surgical precision: forged signatures, the corporate holding structure, the insurance documentation, the transfer timeline. Each piece clicked together like dominoes, falling fast and loud. When they called me to the stand, I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. I spoke in numbers. $312,000 in silent financial support over 4 years, I began. Mortgage payments. Credit cards. Car leases. Tuition. All routed through secondary accounts they never asked about because they didn't want to know. The room didn't stir, but the silence got tighter. I bought that house alone, I continued. It was the only thing I ever had that was mine. And they didn't just sell it. They erased it. Like it had never mattered. Bryn burst through the courtroom doors 20 minutes late. Hair still curled, makeup fresh. She looked like she'd come straight from a rehearsal dinner. She barely let the door close before exploding. "She's jealous," she shouted, jabbing a manicured finger at me. She always hated when I got attention. She couldn't stand that this wedding wasn't about her. "Miss Wexler," the judge warned. "She never wanted a family. She just wants to ruin everything because she's miserable." Security moved before the judge even spoke. Bryn's chair crashed to the floor as they guided her out, still yelling. When the room settled, the judge turned to my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Wexler," he said, voice steady, eyes cold. "You didn't just violate the law. You violated trust. You didn't ask. You didn't inform. You forged your daughter's name and treated her property like a family ATM." Mom's lip trembled. Dad didn't blink. "When you signed her name on that contract," the judge continued, "you forfeited the right to call yourself her family." The gavel came down like thunder. The charges were formalized. Sentencing scheduled. No plea deals yet, though I knew they'd try. Outside, cameras waited. I walked past them without a word. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about justice. It was about closure. And finally, I had it. The lake house looked exactly the same. Chipped white shutters. Creaky front step. The old wind chimes my mother bought during a roadside pit stop still hung by the porch, spinning quietly in the August air. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, half expecting the ghosts of memory to greet me. The furniture was untouched. My books still lined the shelves. A blanket I once loved lay folded on the couch. It should have felt warm, familiar. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. It smelled like memory. Not home. I walked room to room, pausing only by the bookshelf. I ran my hand along the spine of a novel I'd reread during a brutal winter once. That version of me, tired, hopeful, building a life one brick at a time, was gone. Not bitter. Just done. This place had been my sanctuary. My silent victory. My proof that I could build something on my own. But now, it was just another room that they'd walked through with dirty shoes, tracking entitlement across every corner. At the kitchen counter, I pulled the keys from my coat pocket. No slam. No scene. Just a soft clink as I laid them down. Then I closed the door and didn't look back. Back in Boston, I deleted them all. Mom. Dad. Bryn. Every cousin who sent guilt-laced messages about keeping the family together. It didn't hurt. It felt like cleaning. Later that week, I got a call from a detective. He said 3 more adult children had come forward, inspired by my case. They were ready to fight. I didn't say much. Just smiled quietly to myself. I hadn't burned my family down. They did. I simply stopped shielding them from the smoke. And then, I boarded a train north, no plan, no address. Just peace. For the first time in my life, silence felt like freedom. This story is not just about a house or a wedding. It's about what happens when love becomes entitlement, when generosity is mistaken for obligation, and when silence is exploited rather than honored. Leona's journey is a painful but necessary unraveling of the illusion that family loyalty means unconditional surrender. In standing her ground, she wasn't rejecting love, she was rejecting the abuse disguised as love. There is courage in confrontation, but sometimes there is even more courage in quiet resistance. Leona didn't scream, threaten, or retaliate. She didn't play their game. She simply told the truth, legally and emotionally. That is where her power lived, not in vengeance, but in clarity. From her, we learn that loyalty is not blind. True loyalty does not ask us to destroy ourselves for others. And family, if it means anything, must be rooted in mutual respect and honesty, not manipulation. She showed remarkable bravery in choosing truth over comfort, boundaries over guilt, and justice over image. And in doing so, she gave others, strangers even, the courage to come forward and say, "This happened to me too." Leona's story reminds us that silence can be weaponized, but it can also be reclaimed. It can be transformed from passive suffering into powerful agency. Sometimes, protecting your peace means walking away without slamming the door. Sometimes, the most radical act of love is loving yourself enough to stop saving people who never once tried to save you. The lasting truth? You don't lose family when you draw a boundary. You lose the illusion of who they pretended to be. And that is not a loss, it's a beginning. A return to yourself. A reclaiming of the quiet that no longer hurts, but heals.